Hello guys, tonight we're stepping far, far away from the noise of our modern world. Tonight you will drift gently into the rhythm of a day long past, a day wrapped in silence, ritual and candlelight. This is the story of a day in a medieval monastery, told not as a lesson, but as an experience. Through ancient cloisters, among parchment and prayers, we'll move quietly through the hours, from the tolling of matins in the cold darkness before dawn, to the flickering of vespers as the sun sets beyond the monastery walls. You will live as a monk might have lived, within stone walls and sacred rhythms, away from the world. But before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is as this story finds you. I love knowing where in the world these calm evenings reach. Now wherever you are, get cozy, pull your blanket a little closer, rest your head gently, let your hands soften, breathe out slowly. There's nothing else you need to do now. No urgency, no decisions, just listen. The candle's already lit, the monastery doors are open. You're about to step inside. You wake to darkness. There is no sun, no birdsong, no voices, only the cool air, damp stone walls and the faint flickering of a torch outside the dormitory. You've been roused not by alarm, but by the gentle touch of routine, an internal rhythm learned through years of quiet obedience. Matins is near, the first office of the day. The night still clings to the world, thick and silent. You sit up slowly from your narrow wooden cot, a straw-stuffed mattress beneath you, stiff linen sheets above. Around you, the other brothers stir in near silence. No one speaks. The dormitory is a long, echoing hall beneath a timbered ceiling, filled with rows of simple beds. Above your head, the great beams creak softly in the chill. You can feel the age of the place. The walls are cold to the touch, carved from thick stone long ago. You reach for your robe, brown, woolen, rough against your fingers. Every monk in this Benedictine monastery wears the same, a habit woven of coarse thread, made to humble the body and warm it in equal measure. You dress by the dim light of the single oil lamp at the far end of the dormitory. You move slowly. Everyone does. There's no rush, but also no delay. The air carries the scent of smoke, of old wood and lye soap. You've grown used to it. You're no longer surprised by the cold, nor by the way the silence folds around you here. Even your own thoughts feel quieter within these walls. You file out with the others. No words are exchanged, only the soft scuff of sandals on the flagstones and the distant tolling of the bell from the abbey tower. 3 long, low tones. It's matins, the first call to prayer. The corridor outside is barely lit. You walk past walls lined with faded tapestries and crumbling Latin inscriptions toward the chapel. Here the monastery breathes a different kind of time. There are no hours in the sense you once knew them. Life is not measured in tasks or ambitions, but in devotions. The rule of St. Benedict, written centuries ago, governs every breath of your day. Ora et labora, prayer and work. That is the rhythm now. As you descend the stone steps into the chapel, the air grows colder still. You smell beeswax, incense, and the faint musk of age-old wood. This place is ancient, not in the grand sense of ruined castles or lofty cathedrals, but in the quiet way a river is ancient. Time doesn't erode the monastery, it deepens it. The stones here have absorbed centuries of whispered prayers. You're just the latest voice among thousands. The chapel glows in low candlelight. Narrow windows of coloured glass cast faint pools of colour on the walls. You take your place in the wooden choir stool, beside Brother Anselm on one side and Brother Hugh on the other. Again, no words, only the soft rustle of robes and the opening of worn, leather-bound psalters. The prior steps forward. The bell rings once, then matins begins. You chant psalms in Latin, the voices of the brothers rising and falling in long, slow waves. You don't think about meaning anymore. The words themselves have become like breath. Repetitive, steady, unchanging. You feel time lose shape. One moment slides gently into the next, and slowly your thoughts begin to still. The ache in your shoulders fades. The cold becomes a companion. The silence turns inward. This is the life you chose. Or perhaps the life chosen for you. Either way, you're here now, one soul among many. A brotherhood bound by discipline, humility, and ancient words. Matins stretches on in the quiet dark until the first grey threads of dawn begin to pull through the windows, and outside, the monastery wakes, but that's still to come. For now, you are only here, in a wooden choir stall, wrapped in silence, breathing in rhythm, and the day has just begun. The pale blue of early dawn begins to touch the highest corners of the chapel windows. As matins ends and you rise with the others, your joints stiff from the long stillness. The silence continues as you file out, moving together but alone, a column of woolen robes passing beneath high arches, through the cloister walk, and into the chapter house. This is where the heart of the monastery lies, not in the chapel or the dormitory or the fields beyond, but here, in the daily gathering where the rule is read and remembered. The chapter house is small, octagonal, and colder than the chapel. No fire burns here. The stone floor has been worn smooth by centuries of sandals. Along the walls, the monks take their seats on wooden benches, arranged in a circle that leaves the centre empty. A single lectern stands near the door. On it rests the Rule of St. Benedict, hand-copied, carefully bound in aged leather, the pages uneven and soft with time. The prior stands by the book, opening it without a word. His eyes do not meet yours. They rarely meet anyone's. He reads slowly, his voice low but even, as the rule for the day is spoken aloud just as it has been for hundreds of years. Today's chapter concerns humility, not the false, performative humility of gesture or posture, but the deep and difficult kind, the emptying of the self. You listen without reacting, eyes lowered. You've heard it before, many times. It no longer surprises you how hard it is to do. To truly disappear into this life, to be forgotten by the world and yet held within something greater than yourself. When the reading ends, the silence is not broken. Instead, the prior pauses, closes the book and steps back. If there are faults to be confessed or penances to be assigned, they are spoken here. A monk to your left stands slowly and bows his head. He says nothing. He does not need to. His silence carries his admission. The prior nods once, speaks a few words of gentle correction, and the monk bows again. Then he sits. Another brother does the same. Not every day brings confession, but many do. You have stood before. You may again. Not today. When the business of the chapter is done, the prior nods once more, and all rise together. There is no farewell, no conclusion. The day moves forward as one continuous line, a stream without ripples. You walk out again through the cloister, your steps quiet on the stone. The refectory waits. It is still early morning, and this is the first meal, light, silent, taken without speech. You enter the hall and sit at the long wooden table with the others, your seat marked with a carved symbol you've come to know as yours. Before you is a wooden bowl, a piece of coarse bread, and a small ladle of warm broth, nothing more. This is not a place for indulgence or variety. Every meal is the same, and that sameness is part of the discipline. You eat, slowly, chewing each bite with intention. Across the hall, a monk reads aloud from a lectern near the wall. Not scripture, but the life of a saint, or perhaps a commentary on a theological text. His voice is steady, unadorned. You listen as you eat, not for entertainment, not even for knowledge, but as a practice. Everything here is practice. When the meal ends, you bow your head in brief prayer. The dishes are cleared without fuss. No one speaks. No one lingers. The sun is rising now, and the labour of the day begins. Not just prayer, but work. You are needed elsewhere, as you are every day. You step outside into the cool morning light. The grass is damp, the trees still, the air touched with the scent of earth and smoke from the kitchen chimney. The monastery grounds are enclosed, walled in by thick stone, but within them are gardens, stables, and workshops. You head toward the scriptorium, past the cloister walk and under an arch carved with worn Latin scripture. This is where you will spend your morning. Not with plough or spade, but with ink and parchment. Inside the scriptorium, the light is carefully controlled. High, narrow windows let in the morning sun, but keep it soft. The room smells of ink, vellum, beeswax, and dust. Each desk is simple, wooden, angled, worn smooth by decades of elbows and wrists. You sit before your manuscript, the page you began yesterday, waiting for your next careful stroke. A quill rests beside the ink pot. You dip it slowly, adjust your hand, and begin. The work is slow, delicate, unending. You are not writing your own words, you are copying the Gospels, one letter at a time, with painstaking care. Each curve, each serif must be perfect. Errors must be scraped away with a knife and re-inked. You do not question the repetition. This is what you do. This is your offering. Outside, the bells will ring again soon, calling you to the next office. But for now, all you hear is the faint scratch of quills, the occasional creak of a stool, and the sound of your own breath, steady and slow. Time passes differently here. Not quickly, not slowly, just endlessly, like a river moving through stone. This is your morning. This is your life. And it continues, quietly, as it always has. The bell rings from the tower, its tone gentle but precise, cutting through the stillness of the scriptorium like a ripple across water. You pause, place a weighted stone atop your manuscript, and wipe the nib of your quill clean with a scrap of cloth. The ink must not dry on the tip. There will be more writing later, but for now, your task shifts. Prayer has been offered. The word has been copied. It is time for labour. In the rule, work is not a burden, it is a path. Just as you kneel to pray, you bend to work. Both are offerings. You leave the scriptorium and walk again beneath the cloister walk, its arches lined with creeping vines that flower only briefly in spring. Now, in the height of a mild summer, they hang full and green, their scent faint and soft as you pass. The sound of sandals brushing the stones echoes through the passageway. No one speaks, not from habit, but from vow. You are still in the hours of silence. The cloister garden lies at the heart of the monastery, surrounded on all four sides by arcades of stone. In its centre grows a gnarled apple tree, older than any brother now living. Around it, neat rows of herbs, vegetables and flowering plants fill the beds: sage, rue, marjoram, cabbage, leeks, onions and sweet fennel. A line of espaliered pear trees runs along the south wall. Each plant has been placed with care, cultivated through decades of patient tending. You kneel beside a row of rosemary and begin your task for the day, weeding, trimming, turning the soil. Your fingers sink into the warm earth. You feel the pulse of the day in your knuckles. Brother Matthew works beside you, his movements slow and practiced. He says nothing, but you've worked beside him long enough to read his rhythm, the way he kneels, the way he shifts his weight as he reaches between rows. You fall into a quiet sync, the two of you, labouring as one. A few others pass with baskets or watering pots, sandals brushing the path. The only sounds are the rustle of wind in the leaves, the distant lowing of cattle in the fields beyond the walls, and the steady hum of insects. Above you the sun climbs, casting angled light through the cloister arches. Birds pass overhead, silent but swift, their shadows gliding across the stone like brief spirits. Somewhere to the west, near the apiary, you hear the soft clink of tools being set down. The gardener brothers are already harvesting lavender, and the scent rides the breeze toward you, faint but sharp, mingling with the dust and green. You do not speak, but your mind is not still. It rarely is. As your hands move through soil and root, thoughts drift across your consciousness like thin mist. Memories of the world beyond the walls, fragments of a life once lived. Faces not seen in years, a path not taken, but these too pass. The rhythm of labour steadies you, pulls you back. This is the purpose, not forgetting, but releasing. After a time, Brother Matthew stands and gestures slightly with a raised brow toward the rain barrel near the gate. You nod and follow. The two of you wash your hands with ladles of rainwater, cold and mineral tasting. The grime loosens but never fully leaves your skin. It settles into the lines of your hands, reminders of the day's offering. The bell rings again, this time for terce, the third hour of the canonical day. Time for prayer once more. You leave the garden by the eastern cloister walk, stepping into the long shadow of the refectory wall. A blackbird hops ahead of you along the path, watching you with its tilted head, then darts into the hedgerow. Everything around you is alive, but still. The monastery is like that, full of breath, yet perfectly contained. Nothing wasted, nothing loud, just presence. Inside the chapel, the light has shifted. The candles have been trimmed and relit. You take your place again in the choir stalls. Your hands still smell of rosemary and iron-rich earth. You bow your head. Terce begins, not with flourish or intensity, but with that same slow, measured chant. Psalms in Latin, each syllable carrying weight. You do not speak your own words. You speak the ancient ones, shaped by those who came before you, and spoken by those who will follow after. You are a link, not a name. As the chant flows around you, you close your eyes briefly, not in weariness, but in alignment. Your breath slows. The lines of soil still press against your palms, and you pray, not with urgency, but with steadiness. This is the mid-morning. This is the shape of the day. There are still many hours ahead. The day, like the rule, unfolds in perfect rhythm, and you are part of it. When the office of terce concludes, you rise with the rest, your joints quietly protesting the repetition. The chanting ends not with a crescendo, but a quiet return to stillness, like a bowl of water after a stone has been dropped and the ripples have run their course. You lower your psalter back to the shelf and file once again into the corridor, where the light now angles hard through the narrow windows, gilding the dust in the air. The day is no longer waking. It has fully arrived. The monastery hums, not with sound but with presence. Everything is being done, everything has its order. The brothers split off to their tasks. Some return to the gardens, others cross to the stable yard, or disappear into the still, cool hush of the storerooms beneath the kitchens. You walk the opposite way, through the outer cloister toward the granary passage, where the warmth of baking bread drifts lazily in from the open hearth. You are not headed for the kitchen, but for the store cellar just beyond it. Today you are to assist Brother Laurentius, who oversees the keeping of provisions, lentils, grain, salted fish, dried apples, and whatever else the land and seasons provide. The passage to the cellar slopes downward and curves slightly, cut into the natural slope of the hill on which the monastery sits. Stone steps, worn hollow at the centre, descend into the cool dark. You light your way with a rushlight, its faint flame fluttering slightly with every breath you take. The air here is different, dense, cold, still, and heavy with the scent of straw, root vegetables, dried mint, and damp wood. You duck beneath a low beam and enter the store chamber. Brother Laurentius is already there, counting sacks with the same reverence others show to relics. His hands move with care, lightly brushing the cloth, feeling weight, checking for rot or damp. He greets you with a nod, and you begin your work beside him in silence, as always. You sort the onions into baskets, check for soft spots, gather spouting garlic bulbs, and weigh a measure of rye grain to be taken to the mill later. It's careful, slow work, punctuated only by the occasional creak of the wooden bins or the shuffle of sandals. No lists are written, everything is remembered. You think of how long food has been stored here, how many harvests, how many winters these walls have held back. This room has never been empty, scarce sometimes, yes, but never empty. The rule forbids waste, it commands preparation, prudence, simplicity. Even in scarcity there is always enough. When your work is done, you and Brother Laurentius carry a woven basket between you back up the passage, past the still warm ovens of the kitchen, where steam from a pot of boiling roots rises in ribbons through the chimney flue. The cook nods silently as you pass. He never speaks more than necessary, especially during the hours of silence, but he does allow himself a small, quiet half-smile. You nod in return and continue on. The bell sounds again from the tower, clear and resonant, though not hurried. It is time for sext, the 6th hour of the day, and the second office since dawn. The heat of midday gathers now, held within the thick stone of the walls and radiating back softly into the halls. You return to the chapel once more, feet tracing the same path as always. But you do not notice the repetition anymore. It has become something else entirely, not routine, not obligation, just rightness. In the chapel, the light through the southern clerestory windows now bathes the floor in long amber slants. You kneel in your place. The words of the psalms are the same, but they feel different now than they did at matins or terce. The day's fatigue begins to creep quietly into your shoulders and behind your eyes. The chant moves slowly. Your voice joins it without effort. You do not think about what comes next. There is only this sound, this hour, this stillness. When sext ends, you follow the others to the refectory. The midday meal is more substantial than the morning's, still simple but warm and grounding. You take your place once more at the long wooden table, where your spoon and bowl have been set in silence. The meal today is pottage thickened with barley, with a sliver of salted fish on coarse brown bread, and a cup of small ale, watered but enough to cut the flat taste of the grain. All is eaten slowly, no one hurries, no one raises their voice. At the far end of the hall, today's reader stands again at the lectern. His voice, like the previous readers, is unadorned. He reads from a homily of St. Gregory. The words are steady and familiar. Not everything spoken must be new. In fact, the repetition of the same truths is the point. You are not here to consume ideas. You are here to be shaped by them. After the meal, the brothers bow their heads briefly in thanks, and then begin the clean-up, each knowing their task, each moving as if choreographed, without instruction. You gather the used cups, rinse them in the stone basin outside the kitchen, and return them one by one to their shelves. Then, when all is done, and the table's wiped, and the reader has stepped down and closed his book with care, you file silently back out to the cloister. The hour of rest is near. It is the briefest mercy in the day, allowed only in this part of the year, when the sun rides high and the hours lengthen, a moment between labour and prayer, where silence becomes stillness. You will return soon, you will work again, but for now, you walk beneath the arches of the cloister as the bees hum somewhere in the herb garden and the sun lays its quiet weight across your shoulders. Nothing has changed, and nothing must. You leave the cloister walk behind and return to the dormitory, not to sleep, but to rest the body as prescribed. A narrow span of time, never long, carved into the day as a concession to the body's limits. You sit on your cot again, the same place you rose from in the darkness before dawn. Your back rests against the cool stone wall, and your eyes soften, not closing fully, but gazing without focus at the ceiling's timber beams. Some brothers lie back completely, arms crossed over their chests, eyes gently shut. Others sit like you, upright, resting but not idle. There is no speech here either. Even during this hour of reprieve, the great silence continues. It began at Compline the night before, and will not break until the next day's morning chapter, save for readings, necessary instructions, or prayer. Not even the sound of a sigh lingers too long. It is not oppressive, this silence. It is not demanded, it is lived. Not like an absence of noise, but like a deep riverbed that holds the weight of time itself. You rise, after the bell calls the end of rest, your muscles relaxed, but still taut from the rhythm of the day. Outside, the sun is past its height. The colours of the world begin to change again, less white now, more golden. The shadow lines lengthen along the cloister floor as you walk again toward the scriptorium. The air is warmer here than it was in the morning, and the scent has deepened. The ink smells richer, the parchment more leathery, the beeswax softened to a faint resin sweetness. The windows filter the light gently across the desks, and you take your place once more before your unfinished page. The manuscript remains where you left it, protected under a sheet of linen to guard it from dust and insects. You lift the cloth and pause, just briefly, to look at the work already done. Rows of letters, black and red, precise and clean, each letter a prayer, each word a service. You are not copying for yourself. The texts are not yours to own. They are for churches, for scholars, for other monasteries farther down the road or farther down the years. Some may never be read again, but the labour of writing them will remain. You pick up your penknife and trim the point of your quill. The sound it makes, the soft scrape against the stone sharpening slab, is a sound only monks and birds might know. You wipe the nib again, dip it carefully into the ink and begin. You work slowly, shaping each letter as if it were a carving rather than a stroke. Your hand moves with care. The parchment resists slightly. It is not paper, but treated skin. Smooth, but with its own character. You learn to read the grain of it with your fingers, to adjust your pressure accordingly. The text today is from the Gospel of Luke. You've read it before, many times, but that is not what matters. Reading and writing are not the same. Other brothers are at work in the same room. Some copy, like you, others illuminate. At the far end of the scriptorium, Brother Cuthbert leans low over his sheet of vellum, gold leaf balanced on the tip of his knife. The initial he is working on blooms like a garden, twisting vines, a lion, and a single curling lily rendered in ultramarine. That blue alone is worth more than anything else in this room, drawn from stone, brought overland from the mountains of the east. But the beauty is not praised. No one admires it aloud. It is not beauty for its own sake. It is an offering. The bell will not ring again until none, the 9th hour, still some time away. These hours in the scriptorium are some of the quietest, yet the most intense. A single page might take days to complete, a single book, years. You do not think about how long it will take. You do not think about when it will be finished. You simply keep your hand steady, your eyes sharp and your breath long. You shift slightly to ease the tension in your shoulders. The bench beneath you creaks softly. You adjust your ink pot so the light catches it better. The rest is repetition. Occasionally you look up and rest your eyes. You let them wander to the arched windows where light pools on the flagstone floor. Outside, a bee bumps against the glass, once, twice, and then flies off. Beyond the scriptorium wall lies the garden, the orchard, the gatehouse, and the edge of the world you no longer enter. You have not seen the village in years. You have not spoken to a layperson in longer. Yet you do not feel apart from the world. You feel beneath it, or beside it, in a place most never look. You return to your page. Another letter, another word, another line. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the light begins to shift again. The warmth in the room lessens. Shadows deepen at the edges. Brother Cuthbert sets aside his tools and stretches his neck, one vertebra at a time, without sound. You can feel the ache in your own back, but it does not trouble you. You finish the line you're on, draw a small, careful period with your nib, and lean back. The bell rings for none. You set the quill down, cover the manuscript with its linen cloth, and rise. The day is not yet done, but it is bending now, arching gently toward its close. As the bell for none peals gently across the monastery grounds, you feel it more than hear it, a subtle resonance carried through stone and air. You walk once again through the cloister, your shadow longer now than it was before, falling like a brushstroke across the flagstones. The air has shifted. It holds the faint scent of warmed stone, trodden grass, and the slow, clean breath of late afternoon. The sun no longer burns, it lingers. Inside the chapel, the light is thinner now, more golden than white. It enters at an angle through the south-facing windows, striking dust motes that rise like incense, though none burns at this hour. You take your place in the choir, the wood beneath you polished by generations of kneeling and sitting and rising again. The psalter rests in your hands as if it were part of your own weight. The words come, the same as always, not from memory, but from rhythm. The voice of the community begins its slow chant, not with enthusiasm or weariness, but with steadiness, like breath. The office of nun is not long. Its psalms are few, its prayers brief, but it marks something more than the passage of time. It marks the turning, the descent, the downward slope of the day. Morning was labour, mid-morning was steadiness, noon was rest and recentering. Now, in the 9th hour, you begin the slow return, not to idleness, not to sleep, but to completion. As you chant, you glance toward the carved stone at the base of the altar. You've looked there many times. The inscription is old, nearly worn smooth, but still readable. Labore est orare. To work is to pray. The phrase, often spoken aloud by the prior during instruction, now sits embedded in the very bones of the monastery. It is not a metaphor. Here it is a rule, a fact. Everything you have done today, writing, weeding, hauling baskets, eating in silence, walking the same paths again and again, has been prayer. When the office ends, you rise again without signal or word. The others do the same, flowing out through the northern aisle into the cloister walk. The angle of the sun now reaches only the tops of the windows. The arches cast deep shadows. The world is dimming slowly, carefully, as if afraid to rush the close of day. There is still work to be done. Not long, but enough. The community disperses. Some brothers return to the scriptorium, others go to prepare the chapel for Vespers. You are sent to the library, not the great kind with rows of books, but a small, narrow room in the east wing, lined with cupboards and chests, where the few manuscripts held by the monastery are kept. Each volume is rare, each page hand-bound. There are perhaps 24 in total, all copied over the years, some by monks, long since buried in the graveyard beyond the orchard wall. The librarian is an elderly monk named Brother Odin, who greets you with a glance and a gentle nod. He does not speak. Instead, he gestures to a stack of codices that need to be wrapped again in cloth, marked with their dates, and placed carefully back into their chests. You kneel beside him and begin the work. Each book is different, a psalter from Normandy with ornate initials, a fragment of an Augustine sermon copied in trembling script by a novice not yet skilled, a book of hours with its pages foxed and fading, but still rich with use. You lift them one by one, fold the linen wraps, tie them with soft twine, and mark their titles with charcoal on a slip of parchment. The work is slow, quiet, satisfying. The library's small window faces west, and through it you see the world beyond the wall beginning to darken at the edges. A hawk circles high above the trees. The last heat of the day lifts off the stone and disappears into the coming blue. Brother Odin places one last book into its chest and sits back. He closes his eyes for a long moment, breathing through his nose. Then, gently, he closes the chest's lid and latches it. You do the same with yours, and together you rise. No words are exchanged, none are needed. You bow slightly to him and step back into the corridor. The bell for Vespers is close now. You know the sound is coming. You can feel it building like an intake of breath. The air is cooler, the silence deeper. As you walk toward the chapel once more, you pass through the cloister garden. The apples on the old tree are beginning to form, small, hard, green. Weeks from now they will be gathered, but not yet. You pause for a moment in the cloister walk, where the last rays of light slant across the stone, illuminating the worn carvings along the columns. Vines, flowers, a curled lion, the face of a monk long gone. The monastery holds these things like memory. It does not speak them aloud, but they remain. Then the bell rings. Not hurried, not loud, just steady, as it always does. And you turn your steps once more toward the chapel, toward prayer, toward the gentle folding of the day into evening. The bell continues, each note fading into the air before the next begins, measured, calm, never rushed. You follow its rhythm across the cloister, sandals brushing against the cool flagstone as you pass under the arches for what feels like the 100th time today. Yet it is never exactly the same. The light has changed again. Now it lies in thin gold sheets along the walls, interrupted only by the shadows of ivy leaves curling at the edges of the open arcade. The sun is lower now, not quite set, but close enough that the western edge of the garden glows with that quiet fire that comes just before night. You enter the chapel for Vespers. There is no command, no formal signal, but all the brothers know the moment. One by one they take their places again, the shuffle of their robes hushed against the stone floor. The choir stalls creak softly beneath their weight. The candles have been relit. Their small flames flicker with steadiness, casting shallow halos of light that move gently with the breath of the room. The incense is faint now, a lingering trace from the morning, but you can still smell it, sweet and sharp. Myrrh, perhaps, or dried rose. Vespers marks the evening. It is not an end exactly, but a soft descent. The prayers of this hour are gentler, almost tender. The chant begins with a psalm of thanksgiving. The voices rise slowly, quietly. You know the words by heart, but you read them anyway. The Latin syllables carved into your breath like stepping stones across a slow-moving river. The pace is slower now, not out of fatigue, but reverence, as if the day itself is bowing its head. The light outside fades a little more with each verse. The windows of the chapel, Narrow lancets of pale glass and translucent horn catch the last of the day and soften it until everything glows. You are aware of your body again, the dull ache in your knees, the heaviness in your shoulders, but it is a good ache, earned through order and repetition. The body and the day are aligned. You do not resist either. As the canticle is sung, you catch sight of the prior at the far end of the stalls. His eyes are half closed, his lips move gently with the chant. He has lived within this rhythm for decades, a shape formed by the rule and made smooth by time. The same shape awaits you, though it is not something you aim toward. It will come or it won't. The point is not to change. The point is to remain faithful to what you are given. The Magnificat begins, and with it the light outside finally breaks, not suddenly, but like a long-held breath released. The world outside dims into blue and violet. Inside the chapel, the candlelight begins to matter more. The chant carries on, slow and rich, like honey being poured. You do not hurry the words. They are not a task. They are not even a message. They are the breath of this place, spoken because they have always been spoken, spoken because the day would not be complete without them. When the last note of the hymn fades into silence, the prior raises his hand, just slightly. The candles are left to burn. You stand with the others and file out once more. The hallway is darker now. The air cools. You walk the cloister with care, no longer for purpose but for completion. Supper will follow, light, simple and quiet. You do not think of it as a meal, but as an echo of what came before, a final kindness of the day. The refectory will be lit by the fading light from the high windows and a few oil lamps. The reader will stand again and speak a passage from the rule, a line of instruction or correction, and the food, small loaves, broth, a pear split in half, will be eaten slowly, without sound. Afterward you will rinse your bowl, stack it with the others, and return again to your cell. Not yet to sleep, not quite. There is still Compline to come, the last prayer of the day, the great closing of the monastic circle. But the energy of the place is already slowing, like a tide pulling away from the shore. Passed through the garden again on the way back from the chapel, and now it lies in shadow. The apple tree is still, the leaves unmoving, even the bees have gone quiet. Only the faint hum of crickets lingers near the grass. You notice the way the light bends at the roofline of the chapel, like a veil, and for a moment everything seems suspended. The whole monastery holds its breath, caught between the last light of day and the first hush of night. You step inside the dormitory. Your bed waits unchanged. The cot is narrow, the blanket coarse, but it is yours. As you sit, you look down at your hands. They are stained with ink and earth and oil. The day has passed through you. You have not shaped it. It has shaped you. The bell will ring one more time, and when it does, you will rise again. Not for work, not for food, not for speech, just for silence, the final silence, the closing prayer, the last turning of the page before the day is laid down to rest. The bell rings for Compline with a softness unlike any other hour. Its voice carries less force, as if even the iron has learned to whisper. You rise from your cot without haste, and make your way through the dim corridor, lit only by a few guttering oil lamps that cast wavering shadows across the whitewashed walls. Around you, the monastery feels more like memory than place, reduced now to shape and hush and breath. Even your own footsteps have grown reluctant, muffled by the deep stillness that falls when the day is nearly ended. The air is cooler now. The heat of the day has long faded, and the stone walls exhale their gathered cold. You pass through the cloister for the final time, the garden now a darker silhouette, the sky above it deep navy and pierced with the first soft stars. The world has quieted outside, just as it has within. No animals stir in the stables, no bells toll from the village below. All is withdrawn. In the chapel, a single taper burns on the central candlestand, its flame tall and motionless. No additional lights have been lit. The brothers enter in ones and twos, their robes brushing quietly past one another, heads bowed. No one speaks, no greetings are given. The silence is not just expected now, it is felt, heavy and comforting, like wool over the shoulders. You take your place once more in the choir, your body slow, your breath long. You are no longer thinking, you are moving by rhythm, by instinct, by that inner turning wheel that has shaped the day from its first light. The office begins not with song but with confession. Confiteor Deo omnipotenti, the voices begin, low and plain all at once. You speak the words with no effort, not because you have memorized them, but because they are stitched into you. Et vobis fratres quia peccavi nimis cogitatione verbo et opere. You confess to God, to your brothers, to yourself. Not dramatically, not tearfully, just truly. You have failed in small ways today. You have forgotten your posture. You have let your thoughts wander. You have rushed your prayer or hesitated before duty. You admit it now. And then you let it go. The prior in his low, dry voice offers absolution, not grand, not theatrical, just enough, just what is needed. You bow your head and the burden of the day's flaws lifts from your shoulders like a thin film of dust being brushed away. Then the chant begins. The antiphons of Compline are different, lower in tone, gentler in shape. The final psalms are sung with almost no separation between them. Their cadence is not triumphant, not even solemn. It is restful. The chant cradles the words cradle the soul. You do not try to sing well, you do not try to feel anything, you simply allow yourself to be carried. In manus tuas Domine commendo spiritum meum. Into your hands, O Lord, I commend my spirit. The verse repeats, the harmonies soft, folding inward. This is the last prayer, the last moment, the final loosening of the soul from the labour of the day. The prior steps forward and speaks the final blessing. Then, without instruction, the brothers rise and turn, one by one, to file out of the chapel, in perfect silence. No one lingers. No one looks back. You return to the dormitory slowly. No light is carried. You walk, by memory, by the faint glow of starlight through the high window slits. The rows of beds are already being claimed, quietly, simply. Some brothers kneel briefly before lying down. Others pull their blanket over themselves and fold their hands. You find your cot and settle upon it. There is no ceremony, no words. You lie flat on your back, arms at your side, eyes open to the dark beams above. There is no candle, no fire, no voice. The great silence has returned. It will hold until dawn, and in it all things will rest. The words spoken, the labour done, the small doubts, the prayers that fluttered half-formed in your chest. Everything is stilled now, even the breath of the monastery. You feel it like a presence, deep, immense, and without urgency. Outside, the wind rustles in the trees beyond the wall. The stars turn slowly, faithfully. Inside, nothing moves. You do not fall asleep suddenly. Instead, the day leaves you like mist, drifting away from the warmth of your body. You close your eyes, and the monastery remains. You do not know what time it is when you stir. There is no clock. Only the long reach of darkness and the muffled silence that wraps itself around everything. You are not yet fully awake, not truly, just gently surfaced. A shallow breath, a shift of your shoulder beneath the blanket. You are aware of your body, of the weight of the wool, of the straw-filled mattress beneath you. The dormitory around you is still. No one else moves. The world has narrowed now to this room, this moment, this slow, soundless turning of the hours. The only light comes from above, a line of moonlight spilling through the slit window high in the stone wall. It falls in a diagonal stripe across the floor and touches the corner of the nearest cot. Dust floats through it, impossibly slow, almost motionless. Outside, the wind rises slightly. It brushes past the shutters and tugs at the eaves with a hollow breath, like the sea held far away in memory. You do not open your eyes fully. You do not rise. You lie still and let the quiet settle over you again, like ash. There is no fear in this darkness, no threat in the night. The monastery is not a place of dreams or restless tossing. It is a vessel made for stillness. Even sleep is disciplined. Even sleep is shaped by the rule. The great silence continues unbroken. Even in the dark, it holds. There are no whispered conversations here, no coughs or murmurs, no rustling of sheets. Only the occasional breath, the creak of a timber settling under the cold. The other monks sleep like carved figures, still composed, unmoving. It is not unnatural. It is what has always been. You too remain still, listening not for sound, but for the texture of the quiet itself. It is not the absence of noise. It is its own kind of presence, heavier than stone, lighter than shadow. You lie there for what feels like a long time. The darkness deepens and shifts. The moonlight moves, your thoughts drift, not urgently, not brightly. Images come and go, a line of chant from Vespers, the face of Brother Odin as he closed the library chest, The scent of ink on your fingers still faint even now, a robin you saw in the garden earlier that day, its red breast bright even against the dull stone. These things float up and recede again without force. There is no clock, but you can feel the hour draw nearer. The bell for matins will ring soon. The monastery will stir. The day will begin again, not with sunlight or song, but in darkness, as it always does, with the voice of the bell calling you back into prayer, into structure, into repetition. The first office is not a loud one. It will not break the night. It will rise gently within it. You do not fear the waking. It will be hard as always. Your body will ache as you push back the blanket. Your feet will find the chill stone floor, but it will be familiar. It will be already shaped for you. You do not need to choose how the day will begin. That decision has been made centuries ago, by the rule, by the rhythm of monastic life that stretches back through generations of men who lived and prayed and slept in the same silence. The bell has not yet rung, but already you are turning inward again, already preparing to rise, already letting go of what little sleep remains. You keep your eyes closed not to rest, but to wait. The minutes pass without notice. Time here is not felt in minutes. It is felt in movement and stillness, in the space between the prayers, in the shape of the day as it bends again toward its start. Then, at last, there it is. The first tone of the bell cuts through the dark like a distant echo, not loud, not sharp, but absolute. A call older than memory, older than even the monastery's own stone walls. It rings again, and again, each note spaced by silence, measured, slow like drops of water in a basin. You open your eyes, you sit up, and the cycle begins once more. The bell's slow, insistent ringing lingers in the shadows as you swing your legs over the edge of the cot. The straw beneath your feet is cold, the floor colder still, but you move without hesitation. Your body is heavy with sleep and light with anticipation. The monastery is waking, though the world outside remains veiled in darkness. You dress quickly in your habit, the rough wool scratching gently against your skin, a reminder of the discipline you carry like a second skin. The dormitory is still hushed, but the faint rustle of other monks rising reaches your ears, the soft scrape of sandals, the whispered movements of fabric. No words, no greetings. The night is sacred. You step into the corridor and make your way toward the chapel. The narrow hallways of the monastery are shadows and stone, lit only by the pale glow of a few candles fixed into sconces. Their flames flicker in the chill air, casting tall, wavering silhouettes along the whitewashed walls. The scent of cold stone and faint remnants of beeswax fill your nostrils. Outside, the stars gleam sharply in the black sky, unblinking and eternal. Entering the chapel, you find your place once more among the choir. The benches are worn and familiar beneath your knees. The altar stands before you, simple and unadorned, bathed in the quiet candlelight. The silence in the room is so complete it almost feels tangible, a presence you can lean into. Matins is long. It is the deepest, darkest office, the one that unfolds in the hours before dawn, when the world is still asleep, and the boundary between night and day is thinnest. The psalms begin, their ancient words rising and falling in a slow, measured chant that seems to fill the space, and then withdraw again. The voices of your brothers weave together in low harmony, like the sound of a deep river flowing beneath the earth. There is no hurry here. The prayer moves deliberately, unfolding over many verses, many moments. Each psalm is repeated, each antiphon sung with care, each pause held with intention. Time seems to stretch and fold within the chapel's stone walls. As you chant, you feel the weight of centuries pressing gently upon you. This very moment, this very office, has been prayed countless times before, by monks long dead and buried beneath the ground outside, by unknown faces lost to history, by men who lived lives shaped entirely by this rhythm. You are part of that chain, one link in an unbroken circle. The words are old, but they carry freshness here. They carry meaning, not just in their message, but in their cadence, their resonance, their echo against the stillness. They carry you. The candlelight softens your vision. Shadows cling to the corners of the chapel. The cold air breathes around you. The chapel feels infinite in this hour. The past and present blur, and you're suspended between them, held in the slow turning of the night. You do not think of sleep. You think only of the words, the chant, the steady presence of your brothers beside you. The monastery breathes together in this prayer, one body, one voice, one silence. And outside, the stars wheel slowly across the sky. marking time as the world waits, poised on the cusp of dawn. As the final notes of matins drift into silence, a subtle shift begins in the air. The deep black of night starts to soften, as if the sky itself is exhaling slowly. You remain kneeling for a moment, feeling the cool stone beneath your knees, your breath steady and even, eyes lowered. The stillness around you is immense, almost sacred in its weight, like the quiet pause between two heartbeats. Outside, the first pale hints of dawn stain the horizon. A thin, tentative line of silver blue, stretching slowly toward the sleeping land. The garden beyond the cloister is muted and still, the great apple tree, the thorn bushes, the low box hedges, all softened in the faint light. The morning air is cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of dew and earth, delicate and clean. The bell calls again. It is softer now, less insistent, more a gentle beckoning. You rise quietly, sandals barely touching the flagstones as you return to the chapel. The monks gather again, their movements slow and deliberate, faces serene in the candlelight. Some still bear traces of sleep, shadows beneath their eyes, but all are present. The hour of Lauds is the turning point, where darkness begins to yield, where the prayer itself seems to wake the world. The chant resumes, this time with a different tone. Lauds is lighter than matins, still solemn, but touched with a quiet hope. The psalms are chosen to celebrate the new day, to praise the coming light. Their melodies are gentle waves, rolling and folding through the vaulted chapel, reaching upward as if to touch the first rays slipping beneath the stone arches. You listen to the voices around you, blending, supporting, rising like mist over the garden outside. The words come not just from your lips, but from somewhere deeper inside, rooted in the rhythm of breath, in the years of repetition that have worn the path into your soul. Each verse is a small awakening, a gentle stirring. The prior stands silently at the end of the choir, his presence calm and steady, a steady beacon in the half-light. The incense is brought once again, a thin spiral of smoke curling upward toward the vaulted ceiling, its scent softer now, almost like a whisper. You inhale it slowly, feeling it mingle with the cool air, grounding you. Outside, a faint chorus of birds begins, robins and thrushes, their songs tentative but clear, threading through the stillness like threads of gold. You imagine them perched among the branches, greeting the dawn with their simple music, unaware of the monastery's walls or the men within. Their songs drift inside, adding a quiet counterpoint to the human voices. As Lauds progresses, the sky brightens further. The first weak light slips through the chapel windows, pale and diffuse, painting the stone in gentle washes of blue and grey. The world outside is waking slowly, fields glistening with dew, mist rising from the river, the soft rustle of leaves in the morning breeze. You feel the day beginning to unfold, not with urgency or noise, but with the measured pace of ritual and prayer. Lauds marks a threshold, between darkness and light, rest and labour, silence and speech. It is a promise held in sound and breath. The last hymn fades and the monks rise, moving again into the cloister. You step outside and feel the morning on your face, a cool touch, fresh and steady. The garden is alive now with light and shadow, the heavy scent of wet earth and blooming flowers. You take a deep breath and prepare for the day's work ahead, carrying with you the quiet strength of the dawn office, a steady pulse beneath your every step. The sky has lightened further now, shifting from the soft blues of dawn into a pale, washed-out grey that promises the sun's arrival soon. You move through the cloister, the flagstones cool beneath your sandals, their surfaces smooth with years of wear. The garden beside you is quiet but alive, the early morning mist clinging to the leaves, small droplets gleaming on blades of grass like tiny jewels. The air carries the faint, clean smell of damp earth and the soft, distant hum of waking life. The bell sounds again, this time clearer, a firmer summons. It is time for prime, the first hour of daylight, marking the official start of the monastic workday. You step inside the chapel once more, joining the brothers who gather with quiet urgency, though their movements remain calm and deliberate. The flickering candlelight mingles with the growing natural light from the windows, painting the space in a soft interplay of shadow and glow. Prime is shorter than the night offices, focused and purposeful. The psalms chosen for this hour speak of strength and protection, reminders that the day's labour requires not only body but spirit. As the chant begins, you feel the steady rhythm settle into you, the rise and fall of voices, the ancient melodies winding through the stone arches. The words are familiar but never stale. Each repetition deepens their meaning, weaving them into the fabric of your being. Outside, the first birdsong grows bolder, echoing the prayers inside the chapel. A robin's clear call pierces the morning air, answering the chant like a delicate dialogue between earth and spirit. You imagine the garden coming alive beneath the soft light, buds swelling, leaves trembling with dew, the slow awakening of every living thing. The prior's voice breaks in gently, leading the final hymn. The brothers' voices swell together, rising to fill the chapel, before fading back into silence. The office ends not with a rush, but with a gentle closing, as if the prayer itself folds inward like a carefully folded cloth. You step outside again, feeling the weight of the day settle upon your shoulders. The morning is cool, the air still crisp and fresh. The tasks ahead await: the copying of manuscripts, the tending of the garden, the cleaning of the stonework, the preparation of food. Each duty is a small piece of the whole, a thread in the tapestry of monastic life. As you walk toward the scriptorium, the sun breaks over the distant hills, casting long, warm fingers of light across the valley. The world outside the monastery walls is stirring, but here, within the steady rhythm of prayer and work, time moves with quiet certainty. You enter the scriptorium, where the soft rustle of parchment and the faint scratch of quill await you. The day has truly begun. You step into the scriptorium, the heart of the monastery's labour and devotion, where light and silence intertwine. The room is long and narrow, its high windows allowing the pale morning sun to spill in, pooling onto the worn wooden desks. The air here carries the faint scent of parchment and ink, mingled with the subtle musk of beeswax from sealing wax pots left to cool. Around you, other brothers sit bent over their work, quills poised carefully in hand, faces calm and intent. The wooden desks are arranged in neat rows, each one bearing the signs of constant use: ink stains, carved initials, folded corners of manuscripts, small piles of freshly cut parchment. The quills are soft and sharp, feathers trimmed and shaped with care. Inkwells of dark, glossy ink sit ready, waiting to be dipped again and again. You settle onto a simple wooden stool and unwrap your work cloth, revealing a fresh sheet of vellum. The surface is smooth and cool to the touch, inviting your pen to glide over it. Your fingers tremble slightly, not from fear or nervousness, but from the reverence of the task. You are about to create a bridge to eternity. The words of scripture, prayers and knowledge copied by hand, to be preserved for generations yet unborn. The silence in the scriptorium is deep, punctuated only by the soft scratching of quills and the occasional turning of a page. Outside, the bells of prime have faded, replaced now by the gentle sounds of morning, the rustle of leaves in the cloister garden, the distant crow of a rooster, the muted footsteps of the gardeners beginning their rounds. You dip your quill into the ink, careful to avoid blotting, and begin the slow, deliberate work of copying. Each letter demands attention. The curves and lines must be exact, flowing in graceful rhythm. The Latin words unfurl beneath your pen, ancient and sacred, their meaning sinking deeper into your mind with every stroke. The act of writing becomes a form of prayer itself, a meditation of patience and precision, a sacred duty entrusted to you and your brothers. Time passes differently here. The hours stretch wide and deep, marked not by the clock but by the slow, steady progress of your manuscript. The light changes, moving across the room in long shadows that stretch and shrink as the sun climbs higher. Your hand grows tired, but your mind remains steady, focused on the page, on the text, on the unbroken chain of hands that have laboured in this very place for centuries. Occasionally you pause to clean your quill or adjust your posture, eyes lifting briefly to glance at the illuminated letters that border the pages, a small splash of colour, gold leaf glinting faintly in the sunlight. These decorations are gifts of beauty and devotion, reminders that even in labour there is grace. Around you, the other monks work quietly. No one speaks, for conversation is forbidden during copying. The silence holds, a shared sacred space that stretches across the room, binding each brother in common purpose. As the morning deepens, you become aware of the soft rhythm of your breath, the steady pulse of your heart. You are alone, yet part of something greater, a living link in the chain of faith and knowledge, preserving light in the form of ink on parchment. The day moves forward, steady and sure, held in the gentle glow of the scriptorium. As the sun climbs higher, its rays filtering more warmly through the scriptorium windows, the bell rings softly, calling the brothers to pause their work. It is time for a brief break before the next office. You carefully set down your quill and close the manuscript, folding the delicate vellum to protect the painstaking work you have just completed. The faint scent of ink lingers on your fingers. You rise from your stool, your body stiff from hours spent leaning over the desk. Stretching gently, you feel the cool draft from the open window brush against your skin, a reminder that the world outside continues beyond these stone walls. You step out into the cloister, where the air is fresher, tinged with the scent of damp earth and blooming herbs. The garden feels different now in the brighter light. Dew has long since dried, replaced by the gentle warmth of the morning sun. The apple tree's branches sway slightly in the breeze, casting dappled shadows on the gravel paths. The sound of water trickling from the stone fountain in the centre fills the space, a steady, soothing murmur that blends with the rustle of leaves and the distant song of birds. You find a quiet bench beneath the archway, its worn wood smooth beneath your hands. Sitting down, you close your eyes briefly and breathe deeply, letting the tension in your shoulders ease. This is a moment of rest, not for sleep, but for gathering strength, for reflection. Around you, other brothers occupy themselves with small tasks. Some tend the herb beds, carefully pruning and watering, their movements slow and deliberate. Others pace quietly, their heads bowed in silent prayer or contemplation. No words are spoken. The silence here is as complete as within the chapel. You think of the hours that have passed, the prayers, the copying, the quiet labour, and the hours yet to come. The rhythm of the day is strict, each moment accounted for, yet within this order there is peace. The work is not merely duty, it is devotion. Each stroke of the quill, each folded leaf of parchment, each whispered prayer forms a mosaic of purpose. A faint breeze carries the scent of rosemary and lavender from the herb garden, mingling with the crispness of the morning air. You inhale it slowly, letting the fragrance fill your lungs and steady your mind. This garden, these stones, this silence, they have held this place for centuries, guarding it like a treasure. Your thoughts drift gently, unhurried. You recall the faces of the brothers, steady, patient, faithful, and the generations before them who lived by this same rhythm. The monastery is a vessel for their lives, their prayers, their labours. You feel the weight of their presence like a soft cloak around your shoulders. Time moves quietly here, marked by the light shifting through the arches, by the slow, measured breathing of the community. This pause is a small sanctuary within the larger day, a still moment where body and spirit gather their strength before the next cycle begins. You rise slowly, your hands brushing the bench as you stand. The bell will call you again soon, back to prayer, to work, to the unfolding day. You walk back toward the scriptorium, feeling grounded and ready, the quiet of the garden still with you like a blessing. The bell chimes again, its clear notes drifting through the cloister and calling you back inside. You move with calm purpose toward the chapel, the cool air of the garden lingering on your skin as you cross the threshold. The day is growing brighter now, the sunlight pouring through the windows in golden shafts that catch the dust motes suspended in the stillness. Terce, the third hour of the day, marks the first official pause for prayer since dawn. It is a brief moment of renewal, a way to re-anchor the spirit amid the duties and toil. The brothers gather quietly, each one settling into place in the choir stalls. There is no haste here, only the familiar, steady rhythm of the rule shaping the day. The psalms chosen for Terce speak of strength and protection, invoking the power of the Holy Spirit to sustain and guide. The chants rise softly, weaving through the vaulted chapel like a gentle breeze. Your voice joins the others in a calm, measured cadence that fills the space with quiet warmth. The flickering candlelight mingles with the full brightness of morning sun, casting soft shadows along the stone walls. The incense has been lit again, a thin thread of smoke curling upwards, its sweet scent mingling with the cool air. You breathe it in deeply, feeling the prayer settle into your bones. Around you, the monks' faces are serene, eyes often lowered, focused inward. The chant carries you away from the waking world into a place of stillness and clarity. Each verse becomes a small anchor, a tether, holding you steady amid the day's unfolding tasks. The silence between the psalms is deep but never heavy, a sacred pause that allows the words to resonate and the spirit to rest. The sound of the choir is a gentle tide, rising and falling, ebbing and flowing with the breath of the community. As the office draws to a close, the prior offers a quiet blessing, his voice low and steady. The final hymn fades softly, leaving the chapel filled with an echoing calm. You rise with the others and step outside once more. The world feels more vivid now, the light brighter, the air warmer. The gardens bustle quietly with small activity. A brother tending the herb beds, another carrying a basket of freshly gathered greens. The rhythm of prayer and work continues, steady and sure. Terce has renewed your spirit, a brief but vital pause to remind you of purpose and grace. With calm resolve, you prepare to return to the scriptorium, to the careful labour of pen on parchment, the unending task of preserving wisdom and faith. The day stretches before you, shaped by prayer and silence, by effort and devotion. You take a steady breath and step forward, carrying the quiet strength of Terce with you. Leaving the chapel behind, you return to the scriptorium, where the quiet hum of concentration greets you. The midday light streams in through the tall, arched windows, casting long golden bands across the wooden desks and polished floors. The air here is cooler, shaded from the sun's full heat, but it carries the faint warmth of the day. You take your place once again, unfolding the vellum carefully and picking up your quill. The inkpot is nearby, a deep well of glossy black, its surface smooth and still. Your fingers brush over the soft feather before dipping it gently into the ink, careful to avoid blotches or splatters. The work of copying manuscripts is demanding, requiring not only skill, but a patient heart. Every letter is formed with deliberate care, each stroke a small act of devotion. The Latin script unfolds beneath your pen, elegant and precise. The weight of responsibility settles over you, not just to transcribe words, but to safeguard the sacred texts, to bring light to the dark corners of knowledge. Around you, the other brothers are equally absorbed, their heads bent low in concentration. The room is silent save for the soft scratch of quills on parchment and the occasional turning of a page. This silence is heavy but not oppressive. It is the silence of reverence, of shared purpose. Your hand grows tired, the muscles aching slightly from the repetitive motion. You pause occasionally to stretch your fingers, to clean the quill's tip with a small cloth. The parchment absorbs the ink steadily, the letters drying slowly, becoming part of the page's surface. Outside the windows, the world hums with life. The sound of distant voices drifts faintly, perhaps the gardeners speaking softly, or a pair of brothers discussing a task in the courtyard. The garden glows under the midday sun, the greenery vibrant and alive. But here in the scriptorium, the passage of time feels different, slowed and sacred. The hours pass without the usual markers of time. No clocks, no hurried steps, only the steady progress of your work. The monastery's rhythm enfolds you, each moment a thread woven into the day's fabric. You find yourself slipping into a quiet meditation, your mind and body moving in sync with the task. The act of copying becomes more than labour. It is a silent prayer, an offering of time and attention. As the light shifts toward afternoon, you sense the day's flow carrying you forward, step by step, letter by letter, into the deeper heart of the monastery's life. The bell tolls softly, its tones weaving through the scriptorium and into the cloisters, drawing you away from your meticulous work. You set your quill down with care, feeling the slight stiffness in your fingers after hours of steady writing. Slowly, you rise and make your way toward the chapel once again, the polished stone floor cool beneath your sandals. Sext, the 6th hour of the day, arrives like a gentle breath, a midpoint, a moment of stillness and renewal amid the labour. The sunlight floods the chapel now, bright and warm, streaming through the stained glass windows and casting muted patterns of colour onto the stone walls. The air smells faintly of warmed beeswax and old parchment, mingled with the delicate scent of incense curling upward from a small censer. Inside, the brothers assemble in orderly rows, their faces calm and reflective. The chants begin softly, their melodies weaving a serene tapestry through the vaulted ceiling. The psalms for Sext speak of trust and steadfastness, a quiet reassurance amid the day's demands. You join your voice with the others, the sound blending seamlessly in the stillness. The rhythm is measured, unhurried, each phrase lingering gently before the next arises. The silence between verses feels sacred, a space for the words to settle deep into your heart. The prior stands at the front, his gaze steady and peaceful as he leads the prayers. The flickering candlelight dances alongside the growing daylight, casting a warm glow that softens the stone and fills the room with gentle warmth. Outside, the monastery's gardens bask in the midday sun, their colours vivid against the stone walls. A soft breeze stirs the leaves, carrying the distant murmur of the river beyond the monastery grounds. As the office draws to a close, you feel the prayer's quiet strength anchoring you, a gentle reminder of purpose and peace amid the toil ahead. The final hymn fades softly, leaving the chapel filled with an echoing calm. You rise with the brothers and step back into the cloister, the sunlight warming your face. The rhythm of prayer and work continues, steady and sure. Sext has renewed your spirit, a brief but vital pause to remind you of grace and steadfastness. With calm resolve, you prepare to return to your duties, carrying the quiet strength of midday prayer within you. After Sext, the monastery's rhythm shifts outward, away from the scriptorium and chapel toward the fields and gardens that sustain the community. You exchange your quiet desk for sturdier sandals and a coarser tunic, the fabric rougher but practical for the tasks ahead. The air outside is warmer now, full of the sharp scents of sun-baked earth and growing herbs. You join a small group of brothers making their way through the cloister toward the garden and the outer fields. The path beneath your feet changes from smooth stone to gravel and soft soil, crunching gently with each step. The morning stillness has given way to the low murmur of activity, the rustling of leaves, the distant clatter of tools, the soft murmur of voices carried on the breeze. The garden is a patchwork of carefully tended beds, rows of herbs with leaves glistening in the sunlight, vegetables growing in neat furrows, and fruit trees heavy with early ripening apples. The scent of lavender, rosemary, and thyme mingles in the air, sweet and earthy. You take up your tools, a spade with a wooden handle, well worn and smooth from use, and begin to work. The soil is cool and rich, crumbly beneath your fingers, alive with the hum of tiny insects and worms. The rhythm of digging and planting, weeding and watering, moves through you like a steady grounding pulse. The work is physical, demanding, but steady and purposeful. Each action connects you with the earth and the seasons, reminding you of the cycles of life and death, growth and renewal. The sun climbs higher, warming your back as you kneel among the rows, pulling weeds or loosening the soil around young shoots. Around you, the other brothers work quietly, focused on their tasks but sharing the same peaceful energy. There is no hurry here, only the steady progress of hands tending the land. The garden is a sanctuary as much as the chapel, a place where prayer and labour meet in the soil. Birdsong drifts over the fields, weaving through the sounds of clinking tools and soft footsteps. A breeze stirs the leaves overhead, carrying the scent of wildflowers from the nearby meadow. The distant hills roll gently beneath a sky so vast and clear, it seems to hold infinite calm. As you work, your mind settles into the quiet rhythm of the day. The repetitive movements become a meditation, a way to connect body and spirit. The monastery, with its walls and rituals, feels both a refuge and a home, rooted deeply in the land and the passage of time. The earth holds you steadily, the work a humble offering to the community and to the divine. The fields, the garden, and the quiet labour bind you to this place, to this life of prayer and work unfolding beneath the endless sky. As the sun arcs steadily across the sky, a soft bell calls you away from the fields. You pause, brushing dirt from your hands and taking a moment to straighten your tunic before heading back toward the chapel. The air feels warmer now, heavy with the scent of sun-warmed stone and fresh herbs carried on a gentle breeze. Nun, the 9th hour, arrives as a calm interlude in the afternoon, a quiet call to return inward after the labours of the day. The brothers gather once more in the cool shadows of the chapel, their faces softened by the filtered light from stained glass windows. The room is still, the heavy stone absorbing the fading warmth of the day. The psalms sung at Nun speak softly of hope and trust, their melodies winding gently through the space like a soothing balm. Your voice joins the choir in measured harmony, the familiar Latin words settling over you like a gentle cloak. The flicker of candles adds a tender glow, mingling with the deepening light from outside. Outside the chapel, the gardens lie calm, bathed in the mellow golden hues of afternoon. The rustle of leaves in the breeze and the distant murmur of the river offer a quiet accompaniment to the prayers within. The silence between verses is profound but tender, offering space to breathe and reflect. The prior's voice rises calmly to guide the final hymn, a soft invocation of peace and strength. As the office closes, a deep stillness lingers, as if the prayers themselves have woven a gentle calm around the community. You rise with the brothers, stepping into the warm afternoon light. The day has moved steadily, through work, prayer, and quiet reflection, each moment a thread in the monastery's fabric. You carry the peace of Nun with you, a steady presence as you prepare for the final hours of labour and devotion. After Nun, you find your way back to the scriptorium, the familiar weight of the day, settling in your limbs like a soft but insistent pulse. The afternoon light filters through the tall windows now, at a gentler angle, casting long shadows that stretch across the desks like quiet fingers. The air has cooled slightly, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke from the kitchen hearth beyond the walls. You settle once more at your desk, unfolding your manuscript with careful hands. The parchment feels warm beneath your fingers, the inked letters glistening faintly where the light catches them. Your quill rests ready, the inkwell beside it, reflecting the soft glow of the waning sun. The scriptorium is quieter now, the intensity of morning labour giving way to a more measured pace. Your hand moves with deliberate calm, tracing the ancient words with care and reverence. Each letter is a small act of devotion, a bridge to those who will read these texts long after the day has ended. Around you, the other brothers work in hushed focus. The silence is thick but comforting, broken only by the gentle scratching of quills and the occasional turning of a page. Outside, the monastery gardens bask in the deepening light, shadows folding over the stone paths and flowering beds. You pause briefly to rest your hand, glancing up through the windows at the sky. The horizon glows with soft pinks and purples as the sun sinks lower, the clouds edged with fading gold. The world beyond the walls seems distant and still, held in the gentle embrace of twilight. Returning your gaze to the manuscript, you feel the steady rhythm of your work intertwine with the fading day. The scriptorium becomes a sanctuary of light and ink, where time slows and the mind quiets. The labour here is both physical and spiritual, a weaving of patience, faith and care. As evening deepens, the pace of the room slows further, the brothers' movements growing more measured, more deliberate. The day's work draws toward its close, yet within the stillness there is a quiet power, a calm determination to carry the monastery's sacred task forward, one careful stroke at a time. The deepening hues of twilight are still lingering in the sky when the bell calls the brothers to vespers, the evening office that marks the day's transition from labour to rest. You rise from your desk, the muscles in your back and hands weary but steady, and make your way toward the chapel, your footsteps soft against the worn stone floors. The air in the chapel is cooler now, touched by the approaching night. Candles flicker gently along the walls and altar, their flames casting trembling shadows that dance slowly on the cold stone. The stained glass windows, muted in the fading light, hold faint reflections of colour like distant memories. Inside, the community gathers in orderly rows, faces calm and serene beneath the soft glow of candlelight. The chants begin quietly, voices low but full, weaving psalms that speak of gratitude, reflection, and the calm acceptance of the day's end. The sound feels like a gentle tide washing over the chapel, carrying away the fatigue of the hours past. The scent of incense curls through the air, mingling with the faint aroma of worn stone and beeswax. Your voice blends with the others, the Latin words forming a steady, soothing rhythm. The prayers draw your thoughts inward, inviting a stillness that feels both deep and spacious. Outside the chapel, shadows lengthen and deepen across the cloister gardens. The cool evening breeze stirs the leaves, carrying the distant call of nightbirds. The world seems hushed, wrapped in the quiet embrace of dusk. As the office concludes, the prior offers a brief blessing, his voice steady and gentle. The final notes of the hymn linger softly before fading into silence. The brothers rise together, their footsteps light and unhurried as they depart the chapel. You step outside, into the cool evening air, the sky now a deep indigo, speckled faintly with early stars. The monastery feels different at this hour, more intimate, more secret. The day's labours have ended, replaced by the soft pulse of rest and reflection. You carry the calm of Vespers within you, a quiet thread tying the day's beginning to its peaceful close. After Vespers, the bell summons the brothers to the refectory for supper, a modest meal taken in silence. You follow the others through the cloisters, the cool night air brushing gently against your skin as you move beneath the high arches. The stone walls seem softer in the dim torchlight, the shadows pooling in corners like gentle darkness. Inside the refectory, the long wooden tables stand polished and bare, save for a few simple bowls and wooden cups. The room is bathed in the warm glow of flickering candles set carefully along the benches. The silence here is profound, but comfortable, an unspoken bond among the brothers sharing this essential part of their day. The meal is plain, thick bread, a small portion of pottage simmered with root vegetables, and perhaps a piece of cheese or some dried fruit. The flavours are humble, earthy, nourishing. You take your place and begin to eat slowly, mindful of the textures and tastes, savouring the quiet routine after a day filled with prayer and work. The sounds are minimal, the soft scrape of wooden spoons against bowls, the quiet shifting of cloaks, the occasional clearing of a throat. No words are spoken. Conversation is reserved for later, if at all. This silence feels sacred, a moment to absorb the day's rhythm and gather strength for the night ahead. Outside the narrow windows, the sky is fully dark now, deep blue-black, with stars scattered across it like distant lanterns. A cool breeze moves through the open doors, carrying with it the faint scent of damp earth and blooming night flowers from the garden beyond. You finish your meal with a calm heart, the simplicity of the supper grounding you. The shared silence feels like a gentle thread connecting you to the brothers around you, a quiet community, bound not by speech but by presence and shared purpose. As the meal concludes, the brothers rise together and move quietly to clear the tables, their steps soft and deliberate. The evening continues to unfold, slow and steady, the monastery's ancient rhythm holding steady beneath the vast night sky. With the supper cleared away, the bell rings again, calling you and the brothers back to the chapel for Compline, the final office of the day. The night outside is deep and still, the stars bright pinpricks against the vast black velvet sky. You walk softly through the cloister, the stone cool beneath your feet, your breath visible in the crisp evening air. Inside the chapel, the flickering candlelight casts long, gentle shadows along the vaulted ceiling and cold stone walls. The space feels hushed, wrapped in a quiet that seems to embrace and protect. The brothers gather once more, faces serene, eyes often lowered in gentle reverence. The prayers and psalms of Compline are whispered and sung with tender care, their tones low and soothing, as if coaxing the soul toward rest. The words speak of protection through the night, of peace and forgiveness, of trust in the divine's watchful presence even in darkness. The scent of incense curls upward in delicate spirals, mingling with the faint warmth of the candles and the cool stillness of the stone. Your voice blends softly with the others, the ancient language unfolding slowly, rhythmically, each phrase a quiet balm. The chapel feels timeless, a sacred refuge suspended between the day that has passed and the rest to come. The silence between the prayers is deep and full, a gentle space where your thoughts settle and calm. As the office ends, the prior offers a final blessing, his voice steady and low, sending a ripple of peace through the room. The brothers rise quietly, and one by one you leave the chapel, stepping out into the cool night air. The monastery feels wrapped in stillness now, the the steady heartbeat of prayer and labour slowed to a soft pulse. You carry the calm of Compline with you, a gentle light in the dark, as you prepare to retreat to your simple cell and the rest that awaits. Leaving the chapel, you walk slowly through the shadowed cloisters toward your cell, the soft echo of your footsteps mingling with the distant sounds of the night, a faint breeze rustling leaves, the occasional call of a night bird. The stone walls, cool and steady, rise on either side, enclosing you in a space both protective and isolating. Your cell is small and simple, a single room furnished with a narrow cot covered by a rough woolen blanket, a wooden bench, and a small desk with a candle stub. The window is narrow and high, allowing only a sliver of moonlight to touch the worn floorboards. The air here is still, carrying the faint scent of old wood and stone. You set down your belongings carefully and light the candle, its flickering flame casting soft shadows that dance quietly across the bare walls. Sitting on the bench, you take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling the weight of the day settle gently into your bones. In this solitude, there is no sound but your own breathing and the quiet flicker of the candle. The day's prayers, labour, and reflection weave through your mind like a slow, gentle current. You trace the path of the day, the early morning's awakening, the steady rhythm of work and worship, the simple meal shared in silence, and now this final stillness before sleep. The monastery feels distant here, a vast presence beyond your small cell, holding you safely within its ancient walls. The isolation is deep, but not lonely. It is a quiet space for the spirit to rest and gather strength. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the silence enfold you, the steady pulse of the monastic rhythm carrying you gently toward night's rest. The candle's flame dances low, a small steady light in the quiet dark. In the soft glow of the candlelight, you begin the evening's final moments of contemplation. The flickering flame casts moving shadows on the rough stone walls, a subtle reminder of impermanence and the steady passage of time. You sit quietly at your small wooden desk, the cool surface beneath your hands grounding you in the present. Your thoughts drift gently over the day's prayers and work, the delicate strokes of ink on parchment, the warmth of shared silence in the refectory, the calm certainty of the chants that filled the chapel. Each memory folds softly into the next, weaving a fabric of peace and stillness. You reach for a small leather-bound book, its pages worn and edges softened by years of use. The words within are familiar, sacred verses that have been recited countless times, their rhythms steady and soothing. Reading slowly, you let the text sink deep into your mind, the cadence of the language a gentle lullaby for the soul. Outside your narrow window, the night is profound, dark and quiet, the stars steady pinpoints of light that seem to pulse with distant life. A cool breeze stirs briefly, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming night flowers, a soft invitation to rest. You take a few deep breaths, the cool air filling your lungs, and then releasing slowly. Your body begins to relax further into the cot, the rough woolen blanket, a comforting weight across your chest. The quiet around you deepens, and your mind eases, settling into the gentle rhythm of night. The day's cares fall away, leaving only this moment of stillness. In the solitude of your cell, surrounded by the ancient stones of the monastery, you prepare to surrender to rest, carried by the slow, steady heartbeat of the monastic life. The monastery grows stiller as the hours slip softly into night. Outside your cell, the cloisters are wrapped in shadow, the stones cooled by the absence of the day's sun. The air feels dense and tranquil, filled only with the faintest whispers, the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, the distant murmur of a night bird's call. Inside, the candle's flame has dwindled to a low glow, casting soft, wavering shapes that flicker quietly against the stone walls. You lie beneath your simple blanket, the weight a steady comfort, pressing gently against your body. Your breathing slows, deepens, matching the steady pulse of the monastery's quiet heart. In the hush, the day's liturgies and labours fold into memory, a sacred thread woven through the stillness. The rhythm of prayer, work, and reflection hums faintly beneath the surface of your awareness, a soft echo of purpose and peace. The night holds you gently, like the embrace of an old friend, inviting your spirit to rest and renew. Beyond the narrow window, the stars remain steady, silent witnesses to the passage of time. Their distant light spills softly across the darkened courtyard, hinting at the promise of dawn. In this deep quiet, your thoughts drift like slow-moving clouds, untethered and calm. The weight of the day slips away, leaving only the tender pulse of life and faith beneath the stone and silence. You are part of this enduring rhythm, one small presence in the vast, timeless dance of the monastery's soul, as night carries you softly toward the rest that awaits. While most of the monastery sleeps, some brothers remain awake, keeping vigil through the night hours. Perhaps you are among them, rising quietly from your cot, careful not to disturb the deep silence that blankets the stone walls. The chill of the night air brushes against your skin as you move slowly toward the chapel, the weight of solitude wrapped around you like a familiar cloak. The path is dimly lit by the faint glow of moonlight filtering through narrow windows, casting long, pale beams across the cloister's arches and flagstones. The silence here is profound, broken only by the soft rustling of your robes and the distant, steady drip of water from the monastery's gutters. Inside the chapel, the atmosphere is hushed and sacred, the faint scent of incense lingering from earlier prayers. You take your place among the empty pews or near the altar, your breath steady and quiet. The stillness is almost tangible, a space carved out of time for reflection and connection. In the solitude of this midnight hour, you offer silent prayers or meditate on the sacred texts, your thoughts slow and measured, carried gently by the flickering candlelight. The quiet supports your soul's steady focus, a peaceful anchor amid the vast darkness. Outside, the world is still and sleeping, yet within the monastery's ancient walls, the vigil continues, a small, steadfast light shining through the night, a reminder of devotion and watchfulness that stretches across centuries. You feel the weight and gift of this solitude, a moment suspended between rest and awakening, prayer and stillness, as the monastery breathes quietly around you. The first pale light of dawn creeps softly into the sky as the night deepens toward its final hours. You sit quietly in your cell, the world outside still wrapped in the deep hush of early morning. The air is cool and carries the faint scent of damp earth and stone, lingering from the night's gentle mist. Your breath is slow and steady as you prepare yourself to rise again, to join the community for matins, the early morning prayers that will soon begin. The monastery is still and waiting, every stone and shadow holding its breath in the quiet before the day's cycle begins anew. You dress carefully in your habit, the fabric soft from countless washings, but still rough enough to remind you of discipline and humility. The candle's flickering light fades as the grey dawn grows brighter, the narrow window of your cell framing a sliver of awakening sky. Stepping outside, the cloisters lie silent beneath the soft light, dew shimmering faintly on the garden's leaves and the stone paths. The world feels suspended in a delicate moment, neither night nor day, but a quiet threshold between rest and activity, darkness and light. You move slowly, reverently, toward the chapel where your brothers await. The air is still, and the monastery's heartbeat pulses quietly beneath your feet, steady and unchanging, ready to carry you into the prayers and labours of a new day. The bell tolls softly through the still morning air, a gentle summons that stirs the monastery from its quiet slumber. You step into the chapel, where shadows linger long beneath the vaulted ceiling, and the pale light of dawn slips through narrow stained glass windows. The air is cool and carries the faint scent of incense and old stone, a familiar mixture that settles over you like a comforting shawl. The brothers gather in their usual places, faces calm and eyes reflecting the soft glow of flickering candles. The chants begin slowly, rising and falling in measured waves that fill the vast space with a serene energy. The ancient psalms, spoken in low, steady voices, weave a delicate thread between night and day, inviting stillness and devotion. As you join in, your voice blends with the others, a small but essential part of this timeless ritual. The words hold meaning beyond their sound, reminders of faith, humility, and hope, repeated across generations. Each verse is a step deeper into the sacred rhythm, a movement toward light and renewal. Outside, the sky lightens steadily, pale hues creeping over the horizon, signaling the birth of a new day. The monastery feels alive with quiet purpose, wrapped in a sacred embrace that holds you gently but firmly. The office of matins ends with a soft silence that lingers, a moment suspended between prayer and action. You rise with the others, ready to begin again. The cycle of labour, worship, and contemplation turning steadily, like the turning of the seasons themselves. As you step back into the cloister, leaving the chapel's quiet sanctuary behind, The first light of dawn stretches across the monastery's ancient stones. The air is crisp and still, holding the promise of another day shaped by the same steady rhythm that has carried generations before you. You pause for a moment to breathe deeply, feeling the cool morning air fill your lungs. The world feels both immense and intimate here, a small sacred space carved from time and stone, wrapped in silence and prayer. Each day unfolds much like the last, waking to the bell, gathering in prayer, labouring with hands and mind, sharing silent meals, and returning again to contemplation. Yet within this repetition lies a profound peace, a life measured not by haste or noise but by quiet dedication. The monastery is a world apart, where moments stretch slowly and purpose is found in each simple act, copying a line of scripture, tending a garden, offering a whispered prayer. You reflect on the weight and the gift of such a life, the isolation that sharpens the spirit, the discipline that frees the mind, and the silence that allows space for something deeper to grow. Here, within these walls, time itself seems to slow, and the heart of the monastery beats steady and sure. As the day begins anew, you step forward into the cycle once more, carried by the unchanging rhythm of monastic devotion. A quiet journey through the sacred hours, day after day, year after year, woven into the eternal fabric of faith and solitude. Thank you for sharing this journey through the quiet, steady rhythm of a medieval monastery's day with me. I hope the gentle pace and timeless routine have brought a calm space for your mind to wander and rest. Wherever you are, and whatever hour it may be, may you find peace in stillness and comfort in quiet reflection. Now, as you settle down to sleep, may your dreams be soft and your rest deep, wrapped in the same gentle calm that carried the monks through their day. Good night.